Now, William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy are our expert guides to a behind-the-scenes look at the making of Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country in a 25th anniversary special.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
Her ongoing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations.
To boldly go where no one has gone before.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space. But in a very real sense, it will not be one man going to the moon. If we make this judgment affirmatively, it will be an entire nation.
Quite a monumental speech back in 1961, and influential, I'm sure, to the world of science fiction writing. To understand the mechanics and philosophy behind the legend of Star Trek, let's do a little time traveling to examine the origins of man's unquenchable desire to understand the heavens. Since early man first looked up into the night sky with curiosity, we've dreamt of venturing high into the heavens, beyond the confines of our own planet, towards those little campfires blazing in the vast unknowns of space. While astronomers theorized about the origins of the universe, our imaginations pondered the existence of life on other planets and what type of vehicle could transport us there. The prophetic Jules Verne wrote an amazing tale about 3 men, a dog, and a couple of chickens blasting off from, amazingly enough, the Florida coast.
X minus 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Then a slew of writers and filmmakers painted frightening pictures of alien encounters and outer space conquests that would influence our thinking for generations.
It's the end of everything.
What do you mean?
You got company.
Gee whiz.
Then, in 1957, the launching of the first man-made satellite, the Soviet Sputnik 1, initiated the dawn of the space age.
All right, lift off and the clock has started.
The U.S. rose to the challenge with a continuous series of its own historic voyages, including John Glenn's orbit around the Earth aboard the Friendship 7.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around. Oh, that view is tremendous.
Which brings us to 1965, a year that would record another significant milestone in outer space history, the first U.S. walk in space. But it was also a year in which science fiction blended with science fact. A bold new visionary sprang onto the scene in the world of television. A man who would forever alter the way we think about outer space. His name, Gene Roddenberry. Gene spearheaded a brave new idea, a series that would explore the human condition within a space-age format.
Treat everyone on board like a human being except yourself. Well, now you're tired and you...
You bet I'm tired. You bet. I'm tired of being responsible for 203 lives, and I'm tired of deciding which mission is too risky and which isn't, and who's going on the landing party and who doesn't, and who lives, and who dies.
Roddenberry produced a pilot episode entitled The Cage, which starred Jeffrey Hunter and a very young Leonard Nimoy. At first, the executives at NBC Studios rejected the show for being too cerebral.
They felt I had offered them a wagon train to the stars
which I had, because I wanted to sell it. And Westerns were very big at the time. And I felt that I'd double-cross him. I'd written him this thing about where the mind went in certain ways, and they wanted someone with bare knuckles and a fist fight.
Who was this brash writer-producer who would deceive the network and challenge their perceptions of quality television? What was his background?
Well, in the beginning, Gene Roddenberry was simply a navigator, and a courageous one at that. In World War II, he flew a total of 89 daredevil missions over the South Pacific and was awarded a Distinguished Flying Cross. As a troubleshooter for Pan American Airways, he led a critical rescue operation which saved many lives and earned him a Civil Aeronautics Commendation. But Gene would hang up his wings to pursue something he thought was much more fascinating. He saw a strange glowing box known as television, and he wanted to write for it. Eventually, he began selling scripts to such hit series as Dragnet and Have Gun, Will Travel.
But Gene was eager to break new ground. When he began developing Star Trek, he was hoping he could show viewers an optimistic view of the future. Little did he know how much that optimism rubbed off on the executives at NBC, because for the first time in the history of network television, they commissioned a second Star Trek pilot.
We made him a second show, which had a lot of science fiction elements too, but at least it ended up with Bill Shatner in a bare-knuckle fistfight in which he beats a godlike figure. That started us. We sold Star Trek with it.
There were plenty of cast changes made for that second pilot, and Roddenberry had to put up a fight to keep one character on board the Enterprise intact.
I believe there's some hope for you after all, Mr. Spock.
With Mr. Spock and myself in tow, Roddenberry created an unprecedented mix of culture and race working alongside each other in the future. Thankfully, the network saw something exciting and unique. As a result, NBC decided to go where no man has gone before and premiered their first historic episode on September 8th, 1966.
Set your phaser on 1/4. I'll leave mine on stun. Let's get him.
Captain Kirk is Captain Hornblower of the sailing ships, who was a great hero, and Hemingway said is the most exciting adventure fiction in the human language.
Captain, we're getting a signal from the spacecraft.
I was pleased that in those days, when you couldn't get even blacks on television, that I not only had a black, but a black woman and a black officer.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Great affection I have for Asians and what they do and the important part they play in the world, and I just could not have a group of Earth people without including that great, you know, 1/2 or more of the Earth continents.
How close will we come to the nearest Klingon outpost if we continue on our present course?
1 parsec, sir. Close enough to smell them.
Chekhov came on the show because I'd read something, and someone had sent me a copy of a Russian newspaper in which they said after our first year, the ugly Americans are at it again. We were the first people in space, but the Americans don't even have a Russian aboard this crew.
Why, that power leak has unbalanced the ship and she's starting to drift. I can't hold her in place that long.
Scots have always been shipbuilders and ship engineers and so on, and that was a bow to true tradition.
Your pulse is 242. Your blood pressure is practically non-existent. Assuming you call that green stuff in your veins blood.
The readings are perfectly normal for me, Doctor, thank you. And as for my anatomy being different from yours, I am delighted.
Somehow or another, when that episode showed, why, the fans picked up on it. And the writers, as a result, went to work, and then they began to build this kind of a relationship, and through the years it just became more popular, and the fan mail began to demand it.
Star Trek was always in danger of cancellation, especially during the initial months of its first season. Loyal viewers across the country sent letters, phoned their local stations, and eventually convinced the sponsors to keep Star Trek alive for another season.
They're the ones that really gave us this longevity. It's their belief, it's their faith, it's their tenacity, it's their energy reserve, it's their endlessly creative, inventive ways of lobbying that gave Star Trek this life.
Star Trek repeatedly broke new ground with its futuristic portrayal of life in outer space. And the constant effort to make quality television won Roddenberry an Emmy Award and respect among the scientific community. But despite the unheard-of mail campaigns from dedicated fans, the series made its final voyage on June 3rd, 1969, after a total of 79 episodes.
Dr. McCoy, your report. We were too late, Jim. There's nothing could be done.
Captain Kirk, out. We all thought it was over. The series was canceled, and that was that. And then we began finding unheard-of success in syndication, thanks in great part to faithful fans, and a renewed interest in the space program. While viewers were watching a set of fictitious outer space heroes on their TV sets, real-life heroes like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were taking giant leaps for mankind. The legacy of the feature films has a history all its own, dating back to the mid-1970s. Since the wonders of syndication were breathing new life into the original series, rumors were flying about of a second Star Trek series, or possibly a Star Trek TV movie. Prominent writers like Ray Bradbury were submitting ideas. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and Francis Ford Coppola were being considered to direct a motion picture. At one point, Paramount wanted to start its own fourth network with its primary series entitled Star Trek Phase 2. New and old cast members signed on, sets were constructed, costumes designed. Paramount decided to accept a new challenge. They boldly launched a multi-million-dollar motion picture featuring state-of-the-art special effects.
Engineering.
Chief to Falcon, to the bridge, on the door.
Emergency power.
Going to full emergency. But Captain, if we don't break free in 15 seconds, he'll burn up.
10 years after the cancellation of the original series, Gene Roddenberry and the cast were reunited. And I must say, it was a very emotional experience for all of us.
I'll never forget the first day when we were all standing there in wardrobe. And Bob Wise happened to be standing, we were on the bridge. He looked at us and he said, I just really realized, and I didn't until this moment when you're on the set, I'm standing in the midst of living legends.
I mean, we had been told in the course of the last 3 or 4 years that we were going to do Star Trek again, and each time it fell apart. It didn't materialize. So it's hard not to become jaundiced and cynical about this kind of situation. But there we were. We were really doing it. And I had this almost overwhelming desire to embrace everybody.
On December 6, 1979, the crowning touch on this new chapter in our lives was a gala premiere in Washington, D.C. Not only were our faithful fans on hand, but we were invited to a special reception at the Smithsonian Institution's National Air and Space Museum. It is in that museum that one of the original models of the Enterprise now hangs alongside such historic flying machines as the Spirit of St. Louis and the Kitty Hawk.
But because that was so costly a project, they said that would be the only one. And when they said wrap on that, we said, yeah, but it was an extraordinary achievement 10 years after that to have a major motion picture. But then that made tons of money. So we did another one with Nick Meyer, this time as a director, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Were I to invoke logic, logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Our second feature film marked the collaboration with producer-writer Harv Bennett and writer-director Nicholas Meyer, who would go on to direct Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Paramount also incorporated the brilliant special effects wizards of George Lucas's Industrial Light and Magic. Ricardo Montalban reprised his role as the evil Khan from the original episode entitled Space Seed, and the genesis of the story dealt with the creation of a new world.
What have I done?
What you had to do. What you always do. Turn death into a fighting chance to live.
I suppose if one were taking the title of Star Trek III literally, the search for Spock would ultimately lead to the director's chair. For the first time, I was given the opportunity to work with this unique family of actors from behind the camera. And that led to a second directorial assignment on Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
Everybody remember where we parked?
Don't tell me. You're from outer space.
No, I'm from Iowa. I only work in outer space.
Captain, I do not think you realize the gravity of your situation.
On the contrary, gravity is foremost on my mind.
On Star Trek V, my colleague Bill Shatner was given the directing reins, which allowed him to stretch his artistic abilities and scale new heights of adventure.
Staying true to the notion of the mythos that surrounds Star Trek, the rock climbing sequence seemed to me to be a mythological symbol of man's attempt to achieve great heights. It is, in fact, what the whole story is about. To achieve the reality needed, we caravanned to Yosemite, where I volunteered to hang from a cliff 3,000 feet in the air. It was definitely dangerous, but I must say it was quite exhilarating. Now, with the completion of Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, we have come, in a sense, full circle. Returning director Nicholas Meyer has once again molded together all of the vital elements that have made the Star Trek legend endure.
I think there's some wonderful Star Trek moments in it. And our series, if you look at the success of Star Trek, it was built on moments.
How old do you think I am anyway?
137 years, Admiral, according to Starfleet records.
Explain how you remember that so exactly.
I remember every fact I'm exposed to, sir.
I don't see no points on your ears, boy. But you sound like a Vulcan.
No, sir. I'm an android.
Almost as bad.
You recognize that familiar face? Seems like some folk don't age too well in the 24th century. Just kidding, DeForest, just kidding. What you just saw was a scene from the 2-hour premiere of Star Trek The Next Generation, which debuted in 1987. One of the telltale signs of how a legend endures is how well it translates from one generation to the next. And this series has done a remarkable job of building its own unique identity. In this television series, 78 years have passed since the days of Kirk and Spock, and an all-new crew continue to seek new life and new civilizations aboard a much larger enterprise.
Let's see what's out there.
Needless to say, the idea of creating a brand new series with all new characters didn't happen overnight. It came with plenty of trepidation.
On the first show, on the original Star Trek, I practically lost my family from working so many 12-hour days, 14-hour days, 7 days a week. And I said, you can't pay me enough to do that. But then they said, hey, but suppose we did it in a way in which they call syndication, in which we don't have a network, and we don't have all those people. And Paramount was saying to me, and we guarantee to you that you will be in charge of the show.
The new crew of the Enterprise.
Live long and prosper.
When this first became a possibility, a good friend of mine here in Los Angeles said, this was, I think, just before my final meeting for the role, how does it feel to be auditioning for an American icon? And I think that remark unnerved me more than anything else that had been said about it at the time, because although I'd seen a lot of Star Trek in the 60s and early 70s, I still had no comprehension of how much a part of American culture this series had become.
With Patrick Stewart in command as Captain Jean-Luc Picard, there are a few surprising new wrinkles in this updated version of Star Trek, including a Klingon security officer, a telepathic counselor, a female doctor, and one of the most intriguing and popular characters Roddenberry's ever created, Commander Data, a one-of-a-kind android forever in search of human emotion.
I require advice.
Don't look at me. No, Data. I simply mean that I can't give you any advice here. It's not good to advise people about their first love affairs.
We had a new room we're putting on the ship called a bar lounge, a place where you can go and it's not a duty station and you can relax. And I had several thoughts for this. One of those was the fact that I needed one hell of a bartender hostess. And we were thinking of getting the most beautiful girl in all creation to play the part. And thank God Whoopi called up and said, I am a Star Trek fan. I was a Star Trek fan before I was ever Whoopi Goldberg even. And I was wondering if there's some part I can play on your show.
There's so much that people have learned by the 24th century. You notice that there's no problem between delegating responsibility between men and women. There's no color problems. They're just sort of basic Adam and Eve problems, like how are we going to get home sort of things, and how can we save this bunch of people from dying? There seems to be no hassle. There's no problem with men with no hair, or that, you know, some guy's got a huge forehead. The Klingons have cooled out. I mean, things are going well for the world. Star Trek: The Next Generation has proven to be a success on its own merits. It has earned the respect of critics, won a coveted Peabody Award, and several Emmys. In creating a legend such as Star Trek, there is one important ingredient needed to portray the human condition in a way everyone can relate to. That all-important element of humor. As we mentioned earlier, Leonard and I infused a lot of laughs in Star Trek 4 and 5, but mixing humor into dramatic storylines can be traced back to the original series, where the characters developed their own special brand of playful banter.
I see you've noticed the ears. They're actually easy to explain. He caught his head in a mechanical rice picker.
I'm a doctor, not an engineer.
What am I, a doctor or a moon shuttle conductor? I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
Keep saying that. Are you a doctor, aren't you?
If I push these impulse engines too hard in the condition they're in, they'll blow apart.
Fascinating.
Kiss me.
I've never seen him look so happy.
Shut up. Too much of anything, Lieutenant. Even love isn't necessarily a good thing. I can't change the laws of physics.
Fascinating.
He's dead, Jim.
He's dead, Jim.
He's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim.
Looking back at those episodes in the 60s reminds me of how some of that futuristic clothing now seems a bit odd-looking. Then again, we were a mirror of the time, so it was only natural to have alien cultures in bell-bottoms, go-go boots, and hippie outfits. Now, if you thought the laughs only came out of the classic series, just check out the new crew of the Enterprise.
Show me what is funny.
All right, you're on.
Guy walks into the doctor's office. The doctor tells him you need an operation. The guy says, I want a second opinion. The doctor says, okay, you're ugly too. Ba-doom boom.
Sir, I protest. I am not a merry man.
My good fortune is your good fortune.
You are fully functional, aren't you?
Of course, but
How fully?
in every way, of course. I am programmed in multiple techniques.
You jewel, that's exactly what I hoped.
Jean-Luc, shame on you for thinking such a thing.
Data.
There are also plenty of miscues that are captured on film and have lived to this day. Here are a series of rare outtakes compiled over the years.
Enterprise calling Starbase 6. Come in, Starbase 6.
Starbase 6, here.
Hiya, sugar.
Let them pass.
Doors.
What's going on here?
Okay.
Save us, please.
Stand back.
I don't know about you, but this is not the way that you run. I want to know. Are you challenging me to a duel? Yes, if you have the courage.
Jim, I'm fine, boss. Are you all right?
Very good.
And Captain, you're in good hands with Triple.
One could also conceivably measure a show's success by how often it is satirized. Several magazines and television shows have poked fun at the series throughout the years, and here are a few to share with you.
Stardate 14. We're being pulled towards a hostile planet. I'm hoping that Scotty will be able to activate the backup control system. God, I feel so vulnerable.
Captain, I'm picking up some strange signals. Something about intergalactic oppressors, sir.
Captain, intruders are approaching the bridge, sir. Who are
you?
I am the Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Interesting specimens. Spock, where are we?
It appears, Captain, that we are on an alien planet inhabited by strange beings with long hair and very short skirts.
Who are you? What do you want from us?
Highly illogical question, Captain. These are alien beings. They think and act in ways you cannot hope to understand.
Well, what can we do? There must be some way of fighting back. Bones, Scotty.
I'm afraid we have no choice but to submit to their every whim. You're their captives. They control us completely.
No, this can't be. We're human beings. Can't you understand that? We're men. We're men.
The parodies of the series seen over the years are just a small part of the enormous impact Star Trek has had upon our culture. The staid Oxford Dictionary has added the word Trekkie to its hallowed pages.
Far too many people believed, and many still believe, that they're a bunch of teenagers who wear odd clothing and give odd signs and things, but they're not. Trekkers include businessmen, bank presidents, stockbrokers, college professors, and a large number of astronauts.
Social issues of the times and historical conflicts often play an integral part of Star Trek. One could argue that these analogies help bring the world of the 23rd century down to earth.
I don't think you can do better than Shakespeare in terms of great thoughts and great themes. And as it happens, Nick Meyer, who directed 2, wrote 4, and is writing and directing 6, is a great Shakespeare scholar and fan. And I think one of the things he's done, I think he started in Star Trek II when he put a real book and gold bifocals in the hands of Bill Shatner, in the hands of Kirk, was to remind people that literature will not be lost simply because information will all be processed electronically in the future.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Message, Spock?
None that I'm conscious of. Except, of course, happy birthday. Surely the best of times.
I think the success of series like this is based on that wonderful large body of lore that exists that you can delve into.
I am Apollo.
And it was Dr. McCoy with a fine sense of historical irony who decided on a name for our captured Klingon vessel. All I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by.
Melville. John Masefield.
Are you sure about that?
I am well versed in the classics, Doctor.
Professor Moriarty, I presume.
Welcome, my dear Holmes.
Methinks I could not die any place so contented as in the king's company, his cause being just and his quarrel honorable.
Splendid. Data, splendid.
All of this seems perfectly natural to me. Sitting in this chair, which is the command chair and the battle bridge of the USS Enterprise, it's not actually unlike sitting in a throne or a cabinet chair, and a lot of the decision-making that goes on is very, very similar. And in that sense, the kind of work that I've done is being very much continued by this. Equally, the mythic nature of Star Trek as well is all very much a part of work that I've done before.
Perhaps maybe a little Hamlet? Oh, no, I know Hamlet. And what he might say with irony, I say with conviction. What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form, in moving, how express and admirable, in action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god.
There's no question that science fiction frequently depends on otherworldly encounters for its storylines, and Star Trek is no exception. The character of Spock is proof enough that great care has been taken in developing alien beings. During the first season of the original series, Spock went through many changes and many pairs of ears before we got him right. And with each new year of this legacy comes the potential for more characters. In Star Trek VI, it seems we get to see every species of the galaxy and then some. We thought it might be interesting to see a brief glimpse of some of the folks we've met over the years in our quest to seek out new life forms and new civilizations.
Where are the triples?
Don't give me that Klingon nonsense.
I've always played cops and nice guys and lawyers and doctors and boyfriends, but nice people, you know, helpful, you know, and yes, sir, I'll get on that right away, and, you know, and this guy is a total departure from anything I've ever done.
Today, I am a warrior. I must show you my heart. I travel the river of blood.
I suppose we could travel back in time.
Will you please leave my ship?
Q.
When I thought of Q the first time, I thought of, actually, the first thing that came to mind was a quote that was said about Byron. And that was that he was mad, bad, and dangerous to know.
Ensign, engage.
Pretty exciting stuff, isn't it? It's great. To put together one episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation requires an enormous amount of manpower. In the original series, we didn't have the advanced technology that exists today, but we still managed to deliver Emmy Award-winning effects. Today, the making of an episode is an amazing process, and we'd like to share it with you, from script to screen.
I've been asked the question, after doing all of those episodes, are there new things you can do? My God, yes. The basis of our series is the galaxy, and there's quite a few stories out there.
Gene is very, very open. He gives everybody a very slack leash to work with. He wants the shows to be believable, and he wants the characters to remain true to the way they were originally designed, and he wants the stories to deal with the same thought-provoking ideas and ideals that the original series did.
Executive producer Rick Berman and several other staff members meticulously comb through the pages and make revisions while the special effects crew, costumers, scenic designers, and other key personnel create magic out of the printed word.
What we do is we take all the members of the writing staff and we go into a room and we talk it out, and we have a board that actually we write on the wall, and we watch the story beat by beat develop.
Well, I get about 2 weeks' notice on a script. I get about 10 working days to do the thinking, do the drawing, get the sets constructed and ready to shoot.
Well, normally we have 3 shows in progress. One that's shooting on stage, one that's in post-production as it is now, and one that's in preparation.
In order to achieve the unique look of Roddenberry's 24th century, it takes the efforts of a large production team to come up with new and exciting state-of-the-art effects on a weekly basis.
In my department, one of the things is you want to show that the technology is very considerably advanced beyond what we have today. At the same time, you have to create it using present-day technology. Whenever you see a close-up of a control panel, I usually generate it on my handy-dandy Macintosh computer. In this case, this particular piece is from an upcoming episode where we're going to be scanning an area of space, and we're going to see this area of subspace distortion.
Begin long-range scans of the Romulan border.
No uncloaked ships within sensor range. A few subspace anomalies, but nothing firm.
Those anomalies could be cloaked ships.
Any given shot that would have the Enterprise, we've had to shoot the Enterprise doing that same motion about 7 times. One exposure is required for the hull. The hull exposure we'd call the beauty pass. Another exposure is required for the windows. Then to get the warp lights or the impulse lights, we shoot those with diffusion filters so that they glow. And then we have to shoot a matte pass, which gives us a perfect silhouette of the ship that allows us to punch a hole in the background of the scenes.
vibrations and rhythms and complex harmonies.
What you see on Geordie now is a reproduction of a plastic barrette. A barrette that generally fits over a woman's head, like this. Michael Kuda came in with that one day, brought it, said my girlfriend was putting this in her hair the other day. I thought, wow, wouldn't that look good over Geordie's eyes? And we went out and bought some, and we remanufactured one of our basic ideas using that as the basis.
This is a new prop for our 5th season. It's a medical case for Dr. Crusher. It's designed for her to sling over her shoulder very conveniently. When she needs to, she can pull out her tricorder and take readings of her patients.
A shot like this could represent hundreds of man-hours to bring into existence. It's ambitious for television, and I think it pays off. Although the story is what the shows are really all about.
On an episode named Tin Man, we had an alien space creature that was a very organic sort of thing. And so when we had to send someone inside of this thing, here we found ourselves inside a very organic living creature, and we had to have sounds that would help us believe that. We ended up taking a stethoscope and feeding somebody a bunch of pizza and recording those sounds of that pizza being digested, and it turned out terrific.
Some television shows are shot in a week's time, but not Star Trek, with a budget of over $1 million per episode. The process from start date to final editing can take a month or longer to complete. When musical scoring has been added and special effects shots edited in, the finished product must meet Gene Roddenberry's seal of approval.
Usually the second or third cut of every show is something that Gene comes in and looks at and has anywhere from minimal to rather lengthy notes about. And they are always very valuable to us because it brings a fresh perspective to something that we've been a little bit too close to over the weeks that get involved in the editing process.
I think sometimes you people who started in Hollywood and spent a lot of time here forget how really incredible this town is. We have people here that can do anything. And we have other people who try. But this is a rich reservoir of talent. And a person who is willing to use it and willing to let other people make decisions and so on is bound to be successful.
The Klingon Empire has 50 years of life left to it.
To offer Klingons a safe haven within Federation space is suicide.
They're animals. Jim, they are dying. You, Captain Kirk, are to be our first olive branch.
Me? We have volunteered to meet the ship which is bringing Chancellor Gorkin here and escort him safely through Federation space.
We volunteered? This is the Starship Enterprise. We've been ordered to escort you to your meeting on Earth.
Guess who's coming to dinner?
I have so wanted to meet you, Captain. One warrior to another.
Right.
The undiscovered country refers to the future. And as you know, the world in which we are living is turning upside down even as we speak.
The undiscovered country. The future.
If only these two enormous rivals would not blow everything up with their dreadful weapons of destruction. And then somebody says, okay.
Take two, Parker.
That's the undiscovered country.
Would you be willing to give up Starfleet? I believe the captain feels that Starfleet's mission has always been one of peace.
So it really has this kind of feeling of the two major powers of the universe. And there's that nice corollary on Earth with the two major powers of Earth, the United States and the USSR.
You hypocritically presume that your democratic system gives you the moral prerogative to force other cultures to conform to your politics.
That's not true.
No?
It's going to be a whodunit, this story. And I think the audience will be guessing right until the end as to who the culprits are.
We come in peace,
and you blatantly defy that. We haven't fired.
According to our data banks, we have.
I shall blow you out of the stars.
They're coming about.
Battle stations.
Incoming.
Signal our surrender.
Captain?
We surrender.
Once again, we've teamed up with the talented crew at George Lucas's Industrial Light and Magic to create some thrilling new special effects.
One story point in this film is that the Enterprise, poor old Enterprise, takes a pummeling, and it's getting hit repeatedly from another ship with photon torpedoes banging against it while its shields are up. So we have to leave scars in it, so it gets hit time after time.
They're very expensive models. So each one is probably, you know, we're talking hundreds of $1,000s for each of those models. Well, the Enterprise is probably $800,000.
This is an interesting design of the ship. You know, before this, spaceship was either a rocket or a flying saucer. The warp engines here are away from the hull because what they do basically is warp space, almost like a surfboard riding on a wave. And they have to be away from the ship because when they do that, they create this horrible electric field that if you were standing next to, you'd be incinerated. So that's the reasoning as to why they're away from the ship. And they create this space that the ship is able to move faster than light.
The cast and crew had to rise to the challenge of a tough shooting schedule in order to have a release ready for our 25th anniversary. From wardrobe to makeup, every department put in plenty of man-hours with the understanding that they were creating something very special.
Yeah, the scope of this is triple anything that they've ever done before. And also in Hollywood, this is probably one of the largest prosthetic shows that have come down the wire since Planet of the Apes. And anything to compare with it, Back to the Future or Dick Tracy, which still don't even hold a candle to this.
Massive amounts of Klingons and some aliens sprinkled in here and there.
Several extraordinary locations were used in Star Trek VI, including the rough terrain of Alaska. Freezing temperatures and slippery ice were only part of the challenge of shooting there.
Even the stunt doubles that I took to Alaska on the second unit, you know, they had 3.5 hours of makeup. They'd be up at, you know, 2, 3 in the morning, and then we'd fly 40 minutes by helicopter to this glacier, and it would be below freezing in the morning. By noon, they were sweating, and they had this heavy, you know, we were so concerned that they were going to freeze to death. Now I had a problem that they were going to perspire and catch pneumonia. And then, of course, the cold would set in at the end. So everybody, you know, from stuntman to stars, ran into a lot of personal sacrifice to make this movie.
What rock not pushing there?
The Universal Translator was confiscated. I'm sorry?
Este Crest Crew, unto Primo Rescue, on deck.
He's definitely on about something, Jim.
Quadratna, Pushnak!
If this is your spot, we'll move on.
Quadratna, Pushnak!
Portions of this surreal ice planet were shot on a soundstage, where Kirk and McCoy battle against the elements and encounter voluptuous aliens.
I play an alien, a female alien. Her name is Martia. She's a cameloid. That means she can change. She's like a chameleon. She changes physique from time to time. She's a good girl, but she is a villain.
We're outside the shield. Now it's your turn, Captain.
If you say so.
Ah!
Left and left.
Right chop to the neck.
Chop to the neck.
2 jabs and a right.
As we said earlier, the Klingon Empire figures prominently in this storyline. And for actor Michael Dorn, who plays Lieutenant Worf on the current TV series, it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to blend together 2 generations.
My character is the grandfather of the character I play on the Next Generation television show. He is a defense attorney, and he is pressed into service to defend Kirk and Bones in the Klingon court. Objection! Captain Kirk has not been identified as the assassin.
Sustained.
I offer into the record this excerpt from the captain's personal log.
I've never trusted Klingons. And I never will. I've never been able to forgive them for the death of my boy.
consider an attempt to rescue them an act of war?
There will never be a better time.
This is Captain Sulu, USS Excelsior. We stand ready to assist you.
This is fun. You do prefer it this way, as it was meant to be. Warrior to warrior.
You cannot take much more of this. Cry havoc! Teal! And let's slip the dogs of war. Fire!
Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
Star Trek has kept its promise of going where none have gone before. One person who can sum up the philosophy of this extraordinary 25-year legend is its creator, Gene Roddenberry.
Because it speaks to some basic human needs that there is a tomorrow. It's not all going to be over with a big flash and a bomb. That the human race is improving. That we have things to be proud of as humans. No, astronauts, ancient astronauts did not build the pyramids. Human beings built them because they're clever and they work hard. And Star Trek is about those things.
The final frontier. These are the continuing voyages of the starship Enterprise. Her ongoing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. May the wind be at our backs.